This, in my opinion, was thought up by people that have clearly never run a business. The kind of ideas that come from left-wing people who look at things with rose-tinted glasses, see businesses as villains and employees as victims. Welcome to Cut the BS Business, the channel that tells you about business and talks business and runs through running businesses, but cutting all the BS out of it. If you want a straight talking, real world, actual viewpoint on what it's really like running a business, this is the channel for you. So if you like it, make sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon so you don't miss any videos, and if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. So the Workers' Rights Bill comes in April 2026. What it basically consists of is if you're an employee at the moment, you do not have rights for the first 2 years when you work for an employer. Okay, so if they don't like you, step on the wrong bit of carpet, they think your face doesn't fit, they can get rid of you. They don't need a reason for it, and you cannot take them to an employment tribunal. Unless there is some form of criminal activity or you've been dismissed under extenuating circumstances, you may have a case. But realistically, 99% of the time, you don't really have anything you can do about it for the first 2 years. And the idea of the Workers' Rights Bill fundamentally is to give you, as an employee, protection. At the moment, you have to be continuously employed by an employer for 2 years until you have rights. And what I mean by rights, they're going to be things like right to redundancy pay, right to unfair dismissal, flexible working from day one, where you can turn up and you can go, right, actually, from day one, look, I'm making a reasonable request. I need to drop my kid off at school and pick him up at a certain time. I know the job starts at 8 in the morning, but I need flexible working to be able to do that. You can go to them, and if they refuse it, you can take them to an employment tribunal. They have to legally pay for you to be covered for harassment in your job, which is going to be an extended cost for the employer. You've got maternity and paternity leave and pay, okay? At the moment, you have to work for an employer for a year to have a right to this. And the idea of the Workers' Rights Bill is they're going to come in from day one. There's quite a few protections for employees. And this is a good thing for an employee on the surface of it. However, there are a few big problems with the Workers' Rights Bill. This, in my opinion, was thought up by people that have clearly never run a business. This is the kind of ideas that come from left-wing people who look at things with rose-tinted glasses, see businesses as villains and employees as victims. And it's not a balanced viewpoint. What you've done is taken away protection from businesses and given it to employees. And on one hand, that looks like a good thing. And I don't disagree that perhaps there are immoral companies out there that have taken advantage of employees. But most employers are generally good. Okay, if people are bad employers, people don't stay working for them. They leave, okay? And you've got the freedom to leave. You're not tied to a company, okay? There are rules against modern slavery and all that kind of stuff in this country. This is, for me, with the Workers' Rights Bill, moving away from common sense now. This is where it's almost a war on employers. You've got to bear in mind, employers have already had their minimum wage increases now to a level which I think is ridiculous, based on what it actually costs to employ someone. You're paying the equivalent of a shelf stacker. There's nothing wrong with being a shelf stacker. I worked in a warehouse when I started, but you're paying them an equivalent of over £24,000 a year on a full-time hours basis. When I started in employment, I started, it's 2025 now when I'm recording this video. I started work in 2008. My first job was working in a bank on a full-time basis, and I was behind a cash desk, okay? I was on £13,000 and I could afford rent on that. I could also afford train to and from where I had to go and work, and that was a full-time job on 13 grand, right? You're now looking at 24 grand for a shelf stacker. This is 2025. I mean, that's a hell of an increase. And you could argue, well, that's the cost of living these days. That's it. And employers have got to play their part. Yes, they do, but the fault of it isn't the employer. Okay, you've got to look at it from a government perspective and go, well, that's crazy that people are having to pay £2,000 to rent a room and stuff in some places. There's your problem. It's not the wages they're getting from an employer. It's the problem of the landlords and the things getting out of hand in terms of property prices and the cost of inflation and things like that. There's been no regulation or control on this. But yet again, it's coming back to the employer battling them war after war after war on the employer. And this workers' rights bill is the biggest fundamental issue that's going to affect businesses. So if you're an employer, okay, for every 5 employees that you employ, 1 will be good, 3 will be average, and 1 will be bad. Now, you might have your outliers who are your incredible employers, big name companies that can pay more than anybody else, who therefore have their pick of the bunch. But that's not true for most businesses. 99% of businesses, it will be that 1 great, 3 average, 1 bad. That will be your ratio for every 5 employees as an average, let's say, that you will encounter. So if you have that bad employee, at the moment, if they're bad, if they're a problem, if they keep calling sick, you keep seeing them on social media where they're out on a night out, but then they're calling the next day sick, but apparently it's only because they've got a stomach bug and they just had a few cokes the night before. You can get rid of them. You can go, well, you're taking the mickey. Sorry, there's the door. And most employers will be reasonable. They will sit down and have a firm but constructive conversation with them and say, look, you're taking the mickey here. We're going to call this a day if you can't sort your act out. And if they can't sort their act out and they're bad, they can get rid of them. And it protects the employer from someone that's going to take the mickey out of them. This all of a sudden, by giving workers' rights, that bad employee, you can't just get rid of them. You have no protection. You are stuck with them. Okay? So that's a problem if you've got someone like that in your business. The other thing you're going to have, you could have it where at the moment, if someone has paternity or maternity pay, okay, that comes in after a year of their continuous employment. But this is going to now be under the Workers' Rights Bill from day 1. So let's say you have an employee that comes in for interview, potential employee, and let's say they're larger and they're of a childbearing age. What do you think is going to go through the head and the question that an employer is going to have in that interview? They're never going to say it, but what do you think they're going to be thinking? Do I want to take the risk because I could have problems? If they go off after 2 months into the job, I'm going to be paying them. Then they come back and they don't want to come back to work. I've just wasted loads of money down the drain. Even a minimum wage is 24 and a bit grand for a full-time equivalent, plus tax, plus all the licenses, plus I've got to keep their role here open for them if they want to return. Yeah, don't want to take the risk. If someone's got a disability and you have to make reasonable adjustments for them, but you think they might sit there and have an issue with you as an employer, or they could be difficult, or they could be a bit of a Karen, or they could just not have a disability and just be a Karen, do you want to take a risk on them? If you're an employer and you have to take someone on who's a trainee, you've got to train that person up. If they're naff, they don't get the job, and you want to get rid of them, you've got to go through a whole probation thing. And there is on this, bear in mind, they are proposing that probation is going to be extended to a maximum of 9 months. At the moment, you can extend probation up to 12 months. Most companies, for the first 6 months, you'll have a probation period. Company sits down with a meeting before the end of probation, and then they can extend it up to 12 months. This is going to be extended up to 9 months. So an employer, if they think your performance is bad and they can log it and record it as being bad, they can get rid of you within 9 months. But if there's any case for unfair dismissal, if there's anything you want to complain about, if there's any problems, you can be an issue from day 1, and they have to sit there and effectively make sure that nothing happens to you, nothing can put them into a position of unfair dismissal. So what do you think employers are going to do? They're not going to take a risk on people. If they think you're in any way a flight risk, you've been out of work for a while, you need training and development, you could be wanting to have kids, you could have a disability, you may be a bit of a Karen, anything like that, they're going to take a risk. They're not going to bother, okay? You're now in a position where you've got 4 to 5% unemployment in this country. I think it's 4.8% at the time of recording this video. That's only going to get higher. And how's this workers' rights bill going to impact it? I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get companies start to shed people up to the run-up to the workers' rights bill. More and more people are going to be out of work. And all those people who are out of work, if they've been let go and you're an employer, you're going to be thinking, why were they let go just before the workers' rights bill came in? Think about it. If you're an employer, you ain't going to take the risk. If you're an employee, this is going to present a problem. So if you think the workers' rights bill is going to protect you, it might do if you're employed. So long until they can manage you out. And companies will manage you out. They will get good at doing this, okay? But they have more and more risks of taking you on now. This is a proper considered gamble to hire anyone that companies now will have to make. This is no longer I'm willing to take a chance on someone. I've got a good feeling about them. I'll take a punt. Companies are just not going to bother doing it. It's too expensive. The risk is too high. And the problem with this workers' rights bill, it's been thought up by people who do not understand this. They clearly have not been involved in business. They don't get it. This workers' rights bill would have made sense if you had said, right, you get workers' rights from a year in. Okay, fair enough. It could have been where they need to have some documented case to get rid of you, but it needs to have some evidence. Fine. But it doesn't mean a tribunal. It just means you have to have some kind of evidence of why you've got rid of them. Okay? There might be some things in there to protect employers as well. If they take someone on who's gone straight on maternity leave, that after a year is fair enough. Day one, it's a problem. If someone's got persistent sick, that could be something as well you have to look at. And you have the probation periods, but probation periods, again, doesn't alleviate a company from having themselves taken to an employment tribunal. This whole workers' rights bill is a war on business. And it's the biggest fundamental, kick-in that they've had after problem after problem after problem. This is not good for the UK employment scene. This is not good for businesses wanting to employ people in the UK. This is not good for employees who are out of work seeking jobs in the UK. This is ill thought out, poorly executed, and thought out by people that don't understand business. If you like the sound of this video, give us a like. If you like the sound of the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up, and we'll be back for the next video. If you've got any suggestions of videos that you want to see or anything you want to know more about, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you for the next one.